I'm Morgan Pierce,
I'm Austin Herkel.
I'm Tyler Newman.
and our project that we completed was the creation and restoration of a fire break that goes along the south side of the south stand at the entrance of the Christmas tree tract. The Christmas tree tract is located at the ABAC School Forest, which is in Tift County, and the fire break creation and restoration includes clearing the roads of any debris before we begin. We will also be widening the roads for UTVs and other vehicle access. Our group started where other teams left off until the break was completed to Mr. Hall's or Dan's satisfaction. There were a lot of foreseeable issues before we started the creation and restoration of this fire break. If the fire break is not properly created, the fire can creep across the fire break and escape from the burn unit. We constructed the fire break by removing vegetation and exposing bare ground or mineral soil to keep the fire from creeping across the burn unit and escaping. Well-constructed fire breaks make burning a lot safer and can reduce the amount of labor required for prescribed fires. In the past burns of this unit, students were tasked to construct a hand line in this same area, and with the lack of equipment in some scenarios, we were not able to properly reach the ladder fuels that are out of our reach. Ladder fuels could potentially cause the fire to also creep across our fire break and be in unwanted areas. So our objectives are: why create the fire break, restore existing fire break, and increase the accessibility for emergency vehicles, UTVs, and large equipment. So why would you create a fire break? Fire breaks are also known as fire guards, and they're one of the most important elements of a properly constructed prescribed fire. Fire breaks are intended to allow access for vehicles, and they can provide a fuel-free area from which prescribed burning can be undertaken. They may slow or even stop the spread of a low-intensity fire, but fire breaks should not be relied upon to prevent the spread of fire. Inadequate fire breaks are common safety hazards when conducting a prescribed fire and a very likely place for an escape.
This was the map that we acquired from Dr. Lane before we started our project, and we used the red line to accurately start and stop where we needed to put the fire break.
Before we started clearing the fire break, we walked it to see what management needed to be done and the tools that were needed to start clearing all the vegetation and debris in the area.
To get started, we needed to make sure that we had the supplies that we needed for herbaceous vegetation and for larger trees. For the larger trees, we mainly used power tools, and the power tools that we were able to collect was a chainsaw. And for the smaller limbs and smaller trees and herbaceous vegetation, we were able to use hand tools. And this we were able to acquire loppers, machetes, bow saws, rope, and brush axes. As you can see here, these are just examples of the equipment that we used. In the top left, we have a bow saw. We were able to acquire 2. In the bottom left, we have a brush axe. We were able to acquire 1, although it broke. In the middle, we have a pair of loppers. We were able to acquire only 1 pair. And in the top right, you have a machete. We were able to get 2, which helped out quite a bit. And in the bottom right, we were able to get a chainsaw. The biggest issue that we really came across was larger vegetation such as intact trees or fallen trees that were in the middle of the road. In order to get rid of this, we used the chainsaw and then had to drag it off. But as you can see here, Tyler is cutting up a tree that was at the entrance of one side of the fire break, and we were unable to pass through it with a truck or even walking. So we had to get the chainsaw and cut through it. Also here we have Tyler. He is using this chainsaw to cut up a mass of fallen limbs that had fallen over the creation of the fire break. If you look just to his right, you can see an embankment, and that's where the original fire break was. So this mass fell right in the middle of the original fire break. When it comes to moving the larger limbs, we couldn't carry them by hand, so we had to get smart and use a rope. Tyler was able to acquire a rope, and we tied special knots around the trees, and this took quite a bit of trial and error and learning. And we were able to attach it to the back of the truck and drag it off to areas where on the right, on the non-burning side, where either there was just an open location or we actually took it to the burn side and deposited it there. Here you can see a before and after picture of one of the entrances as where Tyler was using the chainsaw. We struggled getting through there with the wax myrtle being thick and smaller pines and scrub oaks. So we used the chainsaw and brush axe to get through that. And as you can see on the right, we almost got to bare ground, and yeah.
And going on with restoring the fire breaks, we mentioned earlier we had issues with ladder fuels. So ladder fuels are anything that would allow fire to creep up into the canopy, such as vines, any low-lying limbs, dense shrubs that grow up into the canopy, anything that allows fire to get into the canopy and potentially jump the fire break by carrying across the canopy and then down additional ladder fuels or just falling on the ground as embers on the other side. So we were able to remove as many low-lying limbs under 20 feet as possible. We were kind of limited in equipment we were using because of the failure of the bow saw in the previous one of the previous groups. So we removed as many low-lying limbs as we could. We removed any shrubs within probably 5 to 10 feet of the fire break itself to reduce anything blowing across or falling across. There was a couple areas where we were able to pull vines out of the trees directly above the fire break. Again, we're limited to our reach about 20 feet up. Sometimes we were able to pull them down out of the tree. For the most part, we were just cut them off as high as we could reach them, and we may have to have someone come back with additional equipment in the future to tackle that. Then here's some more pictures of some ladder fuels we're removing on the left side where it's really, really dense, some shrubs, some smaller trees. We'd fell those, drag them out. The smaller stuff we try to drag into the burn unit so we can burn it up in the future fire to reduce fuel load and reduce risk of if fire catches on the opposite side of an intense, dangerous fire. So there's a lot of herbaceous vegetation here as well. We didn't focus heavily on the herbaceous vegetation, especially when it was directly in the fire break, because we needed to get heavy equipment in there in the future, such as a bush hog or a disc harrow, to actually turn up the bare mineral soil to help with the final creation of the fire break. Then here we have another before and after shot. The left side is the before. This was on the eastern side of the break. There's an opening behind where the photo was taken, and it's kind of funneling into the fire break itself. On the left side is extremely dense overhanging Chinese privet. On the right side were some additional shrubs that had been killed in the fire this past spring. This particular area had a lot of bare soil already, so we didn't have to worry about that. It's easily maintainable with a bow saw. But for this, pretty much all we did was go down both sides, clearing out any herbaceous vegetation low to the ground and anything chest high and down with the chainsaw. And then chest high or higher, we usually try to get the brush axe or the bow saw out there and then cut just kind of like a wall down both sides to help reduce vegetation so we can get actual equipment through and any other vehicles we need. So this is the biggest part of doing this project, is increase accessibility for emergency vehicles and UTVs, as well as other equipment for the continued maintenance of the road break, as well as just ease of accessibility for students and any other groups that may be going out there, whether it's for a class or to burn or just for a tour of the property. And here is some pictures of the final completed breaks. The one on the right is the eastern side. As you can see, the vegetation has been cleared back a substantial bit. Pretty much where you see the tracks right there, that was the original width of the Firebreak. So we cleared out an additional 3 or 4 feet on each side to provide a little bit extra room for vehicles to pass each other and just stuff like that. Now on the left side, it's not quite as wide because there's substantially more large trees close to the Firebreak. That would have required some more work on our part than I think we had the ability to do at the time. Filling those would probably require some heavier equipment just to move them. So we did remove small trees, maybe less than 6-inch DBH within a few feet of either side to help kind of widen it up as best we could. And then, like I said, on the left side, left photo, we didn't really do too much with bare soil there because we haven't had a chance to get the bush hog in at that point or the harrows. That was going to be done in the future. So then initially, when we first went out there, before we started the work, we decided it was so thick, we needed some way to kind of push the brush down just to make it easier for us to walk it. So I just drove my truck through it. I may have taken a few trees with me on the other side and on the tow hooks on the front. It is what it is. You make do with what you got. So, and in conclusion, with aid of the additional groups that were on this particular Firebreak, we were able to get it completely restored, and another Firebreak on a different tract, they were able to start work on that as well. So now that Firebreak is complete. We shouldn't have to have any more hand lines put in there at the last minute as the fire's on the ground. So that'll definitely help with safety. And if any of y'all have any other questions, let us know, and thank you very much.